As for the Metal Elitist videos, I only have maybe 2 or 3 more really good ideas for videos for that series, one of which is a countdown, but after that, I'm pretty much going to be done with it, since I'll have said everything I wanted to about the subject.
Well, let's talk about that. Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exercise my first to memorize vlog style. First video with my new filming table that raises higher than the old one, so my microphone will be closer, and my audio will hopefully be much better than it has been. So what do I have for you today? This is a video I feel like I should have probably made years ago. I originally started the script for this video in early 2021, but in the midst of my moving preparations at the time, among other things, I kind of lost interest in it. But after some recent inspiration from Rocked with his video about obsession with subgenres in metal, and to a lesser extent a couple videos on the particular subject at hand from Wyatt X Him, my interest in making this video and explaining my current outlook on the subject ended up being revived. I have a good bit I'd like to share, so as they say, let's just jump right into it. I've been making videos on this channel for a decade, and one of the main cornerstone topics covered on my channel, something I'm sure most of you watching subscribed for once upon a time, was the subject of metal elitism. Back in 2013 when I started out, I set myself up to be the guy that would have a video to counter all the talking points I could in that area, and for better or worse, that's something I'm largely known for to this day. But if you haven't noticed, unless you count the second dramatic reading of Metal Elitist comments I made in 2021 in honor of reaching 4,000 subscribers, I haven't made a dedicated video for the Metal Elitist series since 2018 with the bashing a band for their fans video. And the last one before that, not counting the Downfall Network video and the Just How Much of a Poser Am I Part 2 video that touch on the subject but aren't part of the official playlist, was a year prior with the Stick to What You Like video. Regardless of whatever semantics might be at play here, I've definitely slowed down with videos on this subject, and I'd like to explain why in this video. One big reason why I haven't been making a ton of Metal Elitist videos as of late is because I feel like I've pretty much ran that well dry. On my Notepad app, or as I like to call it, my arsenal of thought, I have a list of video topics that have entered my mind over time. Ideas for countdown lists, word analysis videos, bands to talk about and what's wrong with, and of course, Metal Elitist subjects. But every time I look at the things I have written in that category, I find myself noticing that most of them are really small and things I don't think I can derive a full video out of. An example of one of the ideas I have written in this section is about people that try to correlate the quality of a band's music to what country they're from, which pretty much just translates to, all my favorite metal bands are European and a bunch of bands I don't like happen to be American, therefore American bands suck. It doesn't take a genius to point out the fallacy there. But it's such a small thing that I don't think requires an in-depth analysis, especially when, silly as this viewpoint is, it's kinda subjective. If there's anything you guys should notice about the kind of content I've been making nowadays, it's that I love making lengthy analyses. I'm talking like in videos like the Rip-Ops video, or the Cancel Culture video, or the What's Wrong Withs on Korn and Blink-182. And with the few things I have in the Metal Elitist category of the list of video ideas, it just isn't the kind of stuff I can make a video about in the same vein as those videos I mentioned. And thus I felt less and less inclined to make a script out of any of them. This shouldn't really be a surprise, considering if you think about it, I've pretty much knocked off all the substantial topics for Metal Elitist videos, and I just don't feel that way about most of the stuff I have written in the ideas list. This leads me to think, everything's been said before, nothing left to say anymore. I do have one final really good idea to close out the series with, but other than that, I feel my mission with the Metal Elitist videos is pretty much complete, which I'll explain more about in due time. Not to mention, I feel like if I did much more with Metal Elitist videos, I could see myself being not much different from people like Joy Sparkle BS or Mike and Actor that garnered a reputation of scraping the bottom of the barrel with their particular subjects and milking them dry to the point where everyone's just tired of it. Another thing though that you guys should know about why I slowed down with the single-focused Metal Elitist videos that you might have picked up on is that I don't really enjoy making those kinds of videos anymore. Haven't for a while. Not exactly uncommon on YouTube, plenty of other content creators have, for better or worse, moved away from content they garnered a reputation for that they lost their passion for making. Like I said a little bit ago, my passion pretty much lies in the in-depth analysis stuff, whether it's in the form of the What's Wrong With videos, the countdowns, the Crybabies of Rock videos, or even the word analysis videos, or videos separate from those series. And I'm sure that's something you guys can pick up on in a lot of my recent content. I love making high-concept videos, and while there's nothing necessarily wrong with making videos on, as Blue Magus, or Cobalt the Crusader as he's going by now, would call it, minor grievances, I find that I've not only more or less lost my enjoyment for rants on small subjects, but it's not really part of the brand I've been establishing for myself as of recent. This also kind of relates to why video output in general has been a lot slower than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. A big thing with me is that I try to prioritize quality over quantity, because I feel that's what you guys deserve to see from me. I've seen what happens when people crank videos out at a fast rate, specifically when they're operating on a daily or weekly upload schedule, because they feel like that's what YouTube is demanding of them if they want to stay relevant and maintain consistent viewership and revenue earnings. And while I understand and respect the hustle, in my opinion, it's not always the best way to go about content creation, because quality is being sacrificed in favor of quantity. That's not something I want for my content, and if that means that I take longer with uploading than I used to, I think it's ultimately for the best if you want more top-notch content from me. But that definitely also applies to where there hasn't been much in the way of Metal Elitist content or videos on smaller subjects, because I don't feel like I can really make a worthwhile quality video on the subject other than the one I alluded to earlier. And even then I'm questioning how much interest I really have in making that video compared to other things I want to do on here. Whereas with other videos, I feel like I can make a good high-concept video on, especially when I can lean hard into that Emp Lemon-esque video essay editing style that I've adapted for my content. I enjoy making those videos a lot more, and I feel that when you're a content creator, you should be making the kind of content you enjoy making and the audience enjoys watching. And while I know that a number of people enjoyed the Metal Elitist videos, I've lost my enjoyment for making that content. And I don't like the idea of putting out content that I don't feel strongly about or that feel half-assed. Not only is this a major reason I don't particularly like making unscripted content, even if it appeases the purest definition of what a rant is, but it's sort of also one of the reasons why I ended the shirt collection series and rebranded it into a segment of my live streams, as well as the reason I view the hair length video as the weakest installment in the Metal Elitist series, to the point where I unlisted the video, along with a small handful of other videos from 2013 to 2014 that I don't think serve much of a purpose today compared to the rest of my catalog. I could do a mini rant compilation like I remember a few people doing back in the day of those small Metal Elitist topics, but that doesn't really seem like something I can put 100% into either. Same with when a few people suggested in the past the idea of remaking old videos. While yes, it's no secret that I don't look back on my 2013 content as being my best in terms of production and structure, I treat those videos as being the foundation for the kind of stuff I espouse in my content today. It's not like my opinions really changed that much, or else those videos wouldn't be accessible to anyone other than me. Along with that, I'd rather go forward with my content than fix the past.
Life isn't about going back, it's about going forward.
To me, that sounds like a more productive thing to do on YouTube. On the note of productivity, another thing I've been learning to do that contributes to this slowdown is not care as much how people think a band should be labeled. With almost 2 decades worth of excessive music listening and band researching under my belt, I believe I have a good enough ear to make judgment calls on who a band's sound is comparable to, and what kinds of qualities make a genre or subgenre what it is. Hence why I've always been perplexed whenever people like Metal Elitists try to argue that glam metal, new/alternative metal, and metalcore aren't real metal. If someone disagrees, I've been making a point to just leave it at that, rather than strain myself explaining why I think they're wrong. The big reason I've been taking these steps is because, to reference the video from Rocked I mentioned at the beginning of this video, less focus is being given to enjoying the music since you're wasting your energy arguing about it and what to classify it as. And as I've said in many videos before, the overall purpose of music and art in general is to be enjoyed, and getting into these kinds of unproductive shouting matches kind of takes away from time you could be spending enjoying the music like you're supposed to do. And that's why I think promoting that kind of a message in my content is an overall healthier and more productive way for me to contribute to the world of music discourse. It's exactly why I hold this thank you note I got from Will from Balance and the rewards package I got for donating to their Indiegogo campaign for their last album, wherein he refers to me as a music advocate in such a high regard. That's what I believe my true purpose on YouTube is, and maybe that's what it always was the whole time. Does this mean that I'll never talk about Metal Elitists again?
No.
I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the themes from the old Metal Elitist videos have made their way into more recent videos of mine. So it's not like the subject's going to be completely gone from my channel going forward. It'll still rear its head on occasion, just not in the form of single-focused videos for the Metal Elitist series. I saw this meme on Facebook from the Punk Rock MBA one time that I really feel gives another perspective on why I moved away from Metal Elitist content. The genre police comfort zone. It starts with feeling safe and in control. Then we get to the fear zone, getting mad when other people like things that you don't like. Ugh, how about listening to some real metal, emo, etc.? Which I feel doesn't just represent the mindset of Metal Elitists, but also myself to an extent when countering them. Not necessarily getting mad because they like something I don't, but rather not liking something I do, even though I've said over and over that that's not the point of why I make the videos I do. Though at the same time, one thing I've learned about people, and this does apply to myself as well, is that whenever they have a strong objection to someone or something, their core reason for it is because they view it as a threat.
Because I'm a threat.
And when you notice that in others, you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself how much it applies to you, since everyone in the world having their own set of biases renders this as being more or less human nature. But the thing I'm hoping you guys in my audience understand about this segment is the importance of
consistency.
Just like how it's dumb that the elitists care that much about people liking metalcore, nu metal, and glam metal, and
Rightfully.
labeling them as such, it's also unproductive to care that much about people simply not liking it. In one of Wyatt X Him's videos I mentioned at the beginning, he described this as something of a victim complex, and I can understand what he means by that, as there are some videos I look back on that, while I still stand by the overall point of them, I feel like there might have been a bit of a victim mentality present even if it wasn't my intention. The death threats video, though, yeah, there was absolutely a victim mentality present there. I will take full ownership of that, since that's basically the reason I don't look back at that video as being one of the better videos in the series. Another thing I hope people have picked up on in my videos, especially in the What's Wrong With videos, is that a band or genre simply not being your thing isn't something I can argue, nor would I even make an attempt to argue. Arguing subjectivity is kind of a waste of time, since you're more or less setting yourself up to be ran in circles, and nobody ends up looking good, or even winning the argument. That's why the most I aim to do with those videos is challenge the logic behind the opinion rather than the opinion itself, or at the very least offer a perspective to consider. If you want your opinion to be respected, you should at the very least practice what you preach. If something's not your thing, then it's not your thing. It would be majorly idiotic for anyone to try to argue that or act like they have the power to change someone's mind, when at the end of the day, that's something they have to decide for themselves. That brings us to the learning zone. Realizing that your taste in music is not an accomplishment that you need to defend on the internet. Maybe I should keep my excessively strong negative opinion to myself. Obviously, no one has the power to stop people from giving opinions, lest they want to be labeled as anti-free speech or something. But this is another thing that I think can just as much apply to you and I as it does with the metal elitists. We don't need to go to battle for our favorite bands or genres whenever someone simply dislikes them. Again, the most I would do is just challenge the logic. But the reality is that they don't need to like the stuff we do, just like we don't need to like the stuff they do. I'm also not the type to act like my taste in music is super exceptional just because I like a lot of stuff outside of metal, let alone the genres that are generally maligned by extreme metal fans and 80s purists. Plenty of people are similar. Does this mean that I don't take any sort of pride in what I listen to?
No.
There's nothing at all wrong with that. I wouldn't have made Just Enjoy Music if I didn't take some sort of pride in how my taste has developed over the years. I'm very satisfied with my music taste, but not to the point where I feel the need to flaunt it every which way and act like it makes me better than everyone else. Even with the Music I Like video, the purpose isn't just to show what I listen to, but also to give other people suggestions of artists to look into if they're a fan of their respective styles, along with giving the audience the floor to make recommendations to me based on what they see in the video. Finally, we get to the growth zone. Basing your opinions of other people on who they are, not what music they listen to. Very Martin Luther King right there. Maybe it's not that important if he or she knows who Modern Baseball or Hate Eternal are. I mean, Modern Baseball are pretty great. You should check them out if you're into indie, emo, or pop punk. But anyway, just like it's not that important if you or I aren't into someone's favorite brutal death metal band, the same applies if someone isn't into metalcore, nu metal, or glam. Again, if it's not their thing, then it's not their thing, and we should just be focusing on their attitude and the logic behind their thought process and practice what we preach. I think I've been generally good at that, but this is just me trying to make it clear for anyone in my audience that might not come across as any better than the elitists. It's kind of similar to the reason why I haven't been making much in the way of politically charged content in recent times. Along with what I said in the intro to Worst Songs of 2020 about how mentally exhausting the shit is, to the point of making an effort for it to be at least less of a thing in my content and my conversations with others, a big thing I've learned about discussing political or socio-political subjects is that people will be better able to understand where you're coming from on an issue and not react super defensively the less aggressive and extreme you are in your approach. And that's something I think can definitely apply to music discussion as well. After all, a big thing I tried to drive home in my Anti-Elitists or SJWs video was that metal elitists and social justice warriors are a lot more similar than they'd like to admit, since they have the common trait of gatekeeping what people are allowed to enjoy if they want to pass their purity test, lest you be labeled a poser or an alt-right Nazi or something. And yes, the same obviously does apply to the right-wing equivalent. There's no bias in one direction or the other. Either way, you don't want to veer into those territories where you're acting like a total prick and throwing a bunch of people under the bus purely based on where they lean politically or what kinds of bands they like or dislike. The less energy you waste on this stuff, the better your mood will be and the better your outlook on life will be. The fact that this meme resonates this well with me, I think is a testament that it's time to let go of metal elitist content. If it wasn't time back in 2018 when I last did a dedicated video discussing this subject, it's definitely time now. Again, this doesn't mean that the themes will never be brought up in other videos, but I'm not sure single-focused metal elitist videos have much of a place on my channel going forward, given the direction it's been going in. The climate is much different than it was when I first started out, as I'm noticing elitism becoming the minority in metal, especially with guys like Finn McKenty getting popular with an anti-gatekeeping message. Hell, you could even look at the fact that after 2 years since uploading it and passing 1,000 views, the second dramatic reading is yet to have received a single dislike at this point in time, compared to the 495 likes against 164 dislikes on the first one, as a testament to that. Sure, the second video hasn't been up for as long, it doesn't have nearly as many views as the first one. After all, that video is the third most popular video on my channel, and I'm sure some dick is gonna argue, it doesn't have as many views cause you're irrelevant. But the fact that it performed better than my newer videos tend to while still having a 100% like to dislike ratio, I think should be enough to suggest that yes, the tides have shifted. We aren't in 2013 anymore. Let's not act like we still are. So with that in mind, until I either lose my enjoyment for what I do, run out of ideas, or if real life shit really ramps up to the point where I have little to no time to dedicate to making these videos, which rest assured is not the case at this point in time, I'm going to be going forward with What's Wrong With, countdowns, the couple ideas I have left for word analysis videos, Crybabies of Rock if something interesting reaches my attention, and whatever other ideas come to mind, such as a new series I'm wanting to begin by the end of this year. And who knows, maybe that final Metal Elitist video will be made if I feel up to it. No promises there. But other than that, I'm basically done with the subject. I'm glad I covered all that I did with the Metal Elitist videos, and I'm glad there are other people here on YouTube speaking out against it and keeping the spirit alive, even if it sometimes feels like there's not much left to say. But I'm pretty much ready to move on from the subject, and have been ready for a while, and I hope you guys can understand where I'm coming from. I really appreciate the support I've gotten on those videos over the years. It means a lot to me that people got something from those videos and appreciate the messages I was aiming to convey. Like I said, I got plenty of other video ideas, so I hope you're excited for that. Other than that, thank you for watching this video, take care, and have a nice day. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time.